Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the History Made Awesome podcast. This is podcast number 4. It is currently 9:24, about a little bit late in the night, but we're gonna get this in anyways. We are back again here with Ben,
Hello.
and I think we'll just kind of get into it. We'll get into the news parts. The news. We'll add that later. But
And here we are.
And the first thing I guess we can talk about is kind of been going on. It actually began, I think, Saturday or Friday, but it's kind of took into a new level today. I guess we can talk about the kneeling situations that are going on with the NFL and the or other sports in general. I think it was either yesterday. I think it just happened in baseball, but basically
hmm
the little bit of controversy that's going on with professional players who are kneeling for the national anthem, or not, or lock in arms or things like that. Um, that's been going on. It began with Colin Kaepernick about a year ago, right?
I think more than that. I think a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah. And it's kind of exploded onto that in other sports. But Colin Kaepernick was really the first person to make it popular. Um, I guess
Infamous.
infamous, yes. I guess there's a lot of things you can kind of talk about. You have like the idea of free speech and kind of like what you can do with it in a sense.
hmm
Um, with me, I really don't see a problem with it. I can see why you can have there's problems with it because the flag means so much to different people. Um,
hmm
but I think that people have used free speech in even more shittier ways. And I think a good example is like the Ku Klux Klan or white supremacists or those types of people have used free speech to spew what they believe. Why can't professional players, why can't they speak about what they speak out in their own way, and it's something that's going to bring attention to their cause. I mean, there's only so much you can do as an athlete, and that's like you're kind of already on a stage when you're on the field or whatever. So it's kind of like you use that to do that, to say your message about what you think about or whatever. Um,
Yeah, I think waving around a Nazi flag is significantly more disrespectful to the country and not standing and covering your heart for the pledge
exactly.
or the anthem for the anthem.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of set this off even more was I think it was on Friday night or Thursday. I forget. It was really recently, but Donald Trump. I think he was in Alabama, I think, or Atlanta. It's one of the southern states, if I'm correct. Um, but he was in a rally for one of his rallies, and in a speech, he had said that he believed that NFL players who kneel or do anything like knock their arms or do anything against the national anthem should be fined or fired. He used a little bit more
Yes.
expletives than that. Um, but and then right now on Sunday, you had a lot of NFL players, NFL teams, just go on to support what some of their fellow peers have done. And then also as well, you had a lot of players kneeling, especially I believe in England. They had one game that they do outside the United States, and I don't know where the
Oh.
teams. It was the Jaguars. I forget. It really doesn't matter who it is. It's some team did it, but basically, actually both teams actually kneel. A lot of players did, and I believe it was actually in Pittsburgh where a lot of players actually didn't come out of the locker rooms until the national anthem was over.
Yes.
So different forms of protest going on, but I think that's my own really point on it. Um,
Is that it's not that big a deal.
no.
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't have spread. This happens a lot, it seems like, where something happens and someone wants it to be punished or doesn't want it to spread, so they draw a lot of attention to it,
Hmm.
and then it has a lot more attention, and then it causes more people to do it. And I mean, I think it has like a name now, something, I think it's like the Beyonce effect or something, where like,
The Beyonce
I don't
effect.
know if you remember, but yeah, she had that thing where she's like, I want that picture removed from the internet, so everyone's like, boom, make it just happen.
Yeah, but that's my point of view. I think the U.S. we're very I think it's good. I think we're like in a very privileged position to where we can actually do these types of things and say these type of messages,
Yeah,
and both sides can say what they want to say. But I think
exactly.
as long as we're trying to move it towards a positive point, I have really no problem with it. Um, but that's my only point of view on that statement.
Yeah, it's harmless, it's fine, and it's sending a message. I think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I guess to play kind of devil's advocate, I guess you can say is, I guess some people have, or a lot of people have kind of said this is kind of wrong because so many people have like died for the flag and other things of that nature.
Yeah, but
Um,
if you talk to people who are like really like actually in the military, they generally say like, yeah, well, I fought for your right to express your freedom.
Yeah.
I like, yeah, okay, you can respect the soldier, but they, they're fighting for you, not yeah, anyway, they're not fighting for themselves to get respect. They're fighting to provide you with the freedom to do the things that this country allows.
And I think like the flag is a symbol of what the U.S. kind of like the flag is kind of like that symbol for like freedom in a sense, right? So what I'm trying to say is that like
Mm,
the flag represents people to do those types of things, and not really. It's not. I mean, of course, it represents the United States, but it represents the idea of the United States, and so it's kind of like you can use it as kind of like a martyr for like those types of ideas in a sense,
mhm.
if that makes any sense or not. Um,
That kind of makes
yeah, I it wasn't like a fully full argument, but I it's kind of what I'm thinking right now with that. It's just like people have died for that idea. Not they have not died for the flag. They've died for the idea of free speech.
yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Bam, boom.
Found words. Done.
So yeah, that was something that really blew up today. Another thing that might blow up going into a little bit of transition. North Korea and the U.S. are still going at it. Um,
Wow. Okay. I didn't know you meant like literal explosion. I thought you were transitioning to something completely different.
no.
Okay. Explosions.
So on
Yeah.
that,
So
yeah, go.
I was gonna say. So where are we with North Korea right now? They're constant escalation, back and forth, back and forth.
Hmm. Well, this all started off when President Trump made a speech at the UN General Council.
Yeah.
Um, and he started off good by kind of saying the U.S. is not going to get involved. Like in terms of I don't agree with the policy really, but like in terms of what he was saying, it made
Hmm.
sense. Basically, he was basically saying that the U.S. shouldn't. We kind of should be isolationist in a sense. The U.S. shouldn't worry too much about what's going on in the rest of the world, and that we should not try to make the U.S. like in small little countries like in Iraq or like in South America
Hmm.
or any other place in the world that the people should kind of just choose what they want to do or how they want to run it. But then he kind of contradicted himself by basically going against like saying North Korea is bad and like I believe the other country was Venezuela. Um, I think it was Venezuela. I might have to check that, but yeah. So he basically like Venezuela, for example, like they're totally like a dictatorship and it's totally not going well, and that what they're doing is completely wrong. So he kind of like contradicted himself by that. And then going on forward was that he then talked about how North Korea and he called North Korea's leader Rocket Man, which is interesting. He's playing this like he's
Did you
on
call him? Did you call him Jim?
no Kim Jong Un. There we go. Um,
Okay, that's fine.
I no, it's like Donald Trump calls him Rocket Man. I'm calling him Jim. No. Um, so he's kind of thinking that this is like an internet, like this is like something chatting on YouTube or whatever. And of course, North Korea was not going to take that line down. And Kim Jong Un, I think it was a couple days ago, he basically said that the same speech that if the U.S. comes and destroy us, we'll destroy them type of speech. And then to
Yeah, usual North Korean threats.
yeah, and then I think it was yesterday, U.S. Air Force flew bombers and fighters very close to the Korean Peninsula, bases to show force that
Yeah.
we're not here to be screwed around with. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what's going on with the North Korean thing. It's
Yeah, it
still
seems like every time Trump escalates it, it's just like, okay, we wrote a speech for you, read the speech, okay, it's going well, and he's off script. And let's look at the reactions of all of his advisors. They all look devastated. Okay, what's he gonna say?
yeah, and
There
then
was,
yeah, go.
yeah, no, go ahead, it's fine.
Yeah, it was Venezuela. I was correct.
Okay.
So and also on that note, I also read that China had also stopped some of its exports to North Korea as well. So it seems like China's taking a much stronger stance on the North Korean state as well.
Yeah, I read something about Russia is still importing fuel to them though, so they're going around the sanctions a little bit from what I read.
And then also today, they expanded the travel bans to North Korea and Venezuela. Um, okay, I guess that hurts more. I guess it hurts more of like For the Venezuelan thing, I'm kind of confused because I, I don't. They need a lot more Venezuelans than North Koreans coming in.
I would say maybe are there a lot of North Korean workers in Venezuela? Because one of the main ways that North Korea makes money is they just send the people um, to foreign countries to work, and then they send all of their money, all of their income back.
I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm trying.
I honestly I hadn't heard about that thing until you mentioned it, so I'm not sure.
Da-da-da-da. Oh, it's actually. Oh, sorry. It actually expanded out to Chad, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, and
These
Syria.
are yeah,
Yeah.
these aren't sanctions. That's travel restrictions.
Travel restrictions.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
restrictions. They're not
good.
bans. They're restrictions.
They're kind of yeah. Okay, so slightly unrelated to the North
Yeah,
Korean thing.
but the thing is,
Interesting.
I think that they're just putting more like this is the people that we don't like in a sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
it
think
is.
that's the message is more saying it's not. I mean, the physical aspects of it, of course, are very bad for the people who actually are good people and try to travel back and forth to visit
Mm,
families and things of that nature. For the physical effects, that makes it hard on people. But like on a more larger level, it's basically saying that these are people that we've singled out as people who are not our friends, and it's kind of saying out like these are
mhm.
the exclusion people who are going to be excluded from the United States are being, you know, talked to back and forth. Um, so he's kind of setting he's really setting out his net pretty much of these people we are not going to talk to. Um, but yeah, so that is so that's pretty much what all that's happened really. I mean, I don't think anything's really going to happen from the North Korea thing. But the thing that's kind of interesting is that you have more of these things being put on these
Sanctions.
sanctions being put on. They're being increased. It's really interesting to see what Jim Kim Jong Un's gonna do.
Wow.
Uh,
Jim Con
yeah,
Un.
yeah. It's been really interesting to see what he's gonna do because it's like he's been saying to his people like, and I'm pretty much sure that every North Korean leader has done this where he's basically said we're gonna stand up to the West or whatever and all these different things.
Mm.
But he's really going to. I'm not sure if this is unique, but he's really going to town basically saying we are going to stand up to the U.S. These sanctions are not going to stop us. Um, I wonder how far. Like it's almost like a game of chicken. Like how far is he gonna take it before he has to stand down, or he's gonna have to step up, pretty much.
I mean, the thing is, if he's, I don't, it's like it's hard to tell. I'm not really
North
able
Korean
to
expert.
profile
Yeah.
profile Kim Jong Un. So it's just curious. It's like, okay, is he insane? Because if he's insane, then he'll probably eventually attack,
Hmm.
and then his country will die. I mean, if he tries to fight toe to toe with the U.S., unless China joins them, they're gonna die
Yeah. Exactly.
hard.
Exactly.
Especially with someone as Trump leading. I mean, he'll just be like, "Oh shit, we lost 1,000 people, nuke," and that'll
Say it again. What'd you
like
say? Sorry.
uh, when you have if North Korea declares war on the U.S.
Yeah.
with uh, with our chief commander being kind of insane and unpredictable,
Yes.
it's a bad person to pick a fight with.
Yes.
Because if war breaks out and suddenly the U.S. troops start dying, if Trump thinks, "Oh, I'll get better ratings if I kill them," then he'll start nuking North Korea.
Yeah. So it's almost like two crazy people playing a very dangerous game of chess.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if they're even playing chess or playing something more sadistic. I would say. Um. So yeah, that's definitely going on there.
Yeah, sadistic and a little less intelligent.
Yes.
I think
Um.
chicken
Chicken.
was a
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Chicken with nukes. I can just see that picture right now.
Yeah.
So that's something that's going on the home front. Again with Trump as well. Um, I guess the noose. I wouldn't say the noose, but the investigation is getting very close to him. Recently, his former chief. I think it was not his strategist. It was his. I guess it was the top
Campaign.
campaign manager. Yeah. Manafort. He's getting into more of the investigation a lot more. They raided his home, kind of using like something you would I forget which news it was BBC or something like that or New York Times I forget which news organization but they said that they used like FBI tactics they would use like on a gang bus almost like breaking into his
Yeah.
home, not letting him know that they were coming, and um,
Hmm.
taking all his documents because they were afraid that he might try to destroy evidence. Uh,
Yeah.
and then they've also said they're expanding it. They might be expanding a little bit more. I have some notes right here. Basically, Manafort. They're also going to look to the White House for information that has occurred in the what's it called, the meeting after Comey's firing in the Oval Office with the Russians. Um, Basically,
Hmm.
what had happened in there, Kushner's emails, and kind of what he did during the meeting that he had in Trump Tower, I believe.
Yeah.
But basically, we can just see it's starting to enter the inner circle of Donald Trump, and it seemed like it might start to touch him a little bit. Um, so things are getting very very interesting there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Uh,
a lot going on there. It's been doing it gradually.
yeah,
I like that article he sent me because it kind of brought it all together. But it's because I kept seeing different articles each time each one of these little individual things
yeah.
came out, and it's like, oh, Mueller's doing this now. Now he's doing this,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, here's everything he's doing.
And it's very low key too. It's not like how like the earthquake, which we'll talk about a little bit, and the hurricane Maria that's been kind of like on the news, but like this is kind of going on the background behind what's going on with
Yeah.
Iran and another one as well. Um, so it's kind of like inching closer and closer. I'm
Yeah,
really
and it's
yeah,
it's it's inching fast too.
yes.
It's because didn't Mueller already bring together what is it, the grand jury, right?
Uh,
He already brought together, yeah, grand jury.
yeah.
He already brought together a grand jury. That was a little while ago too. I mean, it's insane. It's moving very quickly.
And the Senate is also doing its own investigations as well. So yeah, it's coming on from two fronts. Um,
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but they were interviewing somebody, and they excused him, and they were going to do it in a public hearing. I do not have the article in front of me, but they are also working in closer to Donald Trump as well. So you can see, I won't say the news because we don't really know if he's guilty or not. On this issue though, about if he is guilty or not of colluding with the Russians, I was listening to a, somebody who kind of deals with things, but I feel like I like his opinions on it. What was his name?
Hmm.
I'll remember the guy's name in a little bit. I'll probably put it like in the video or something like that. But there's either three things of this. He either did collude, or like with dealing with the what's it called? With who was the former FBI Comey? There we go. Uh,
Yeah.
and like how he basically how they had a good story out, like basically like the way he handled Hillary was really dumb, and this is why we fired him pretty much. But
Yeah, that
then
was stupid.
and
That
then
was
and
a
then
dumb excuse.
yeah, and then he comes out with even more like, I mean, it was more of a better excuse than what had happened after he gave a interview to NBC, and basically said himself that he was already looking to fire Comey because of what was going on with Russia.
Yeah, the Russian thing. Yeah, that was the problem. It was like they fired him, and then I think the first thing they said was like, "Oh well, so and so recommended that we fire him,"
It seems like the
and then he
attorney,
came
yeah,
he came out and went, "No, I didn't." Said
yeah,
I he's like, I said that he did this thing wrong. I didn't say they should fire him, and they're
mhm,
like, "Oh well, we fired him because of the Hillary Clinton thing,"
mhm.
and it was like, what? You were
So
cheering him
yeah,
on the
yeah,
entire time.
yeah,
And they're like, and then Trump came out and was like, yeah, no, it was because of the Russia thing.
yeah.
And everyone's like, well, what, are you fucking stupid? What's wrong with you?
And so, this person, I kind of like what he said about it. He basically said he either did collude or he's just stupid, and that he didn't collude.
Yeah.
So I don't think you could be that stupid and like try to get a result out of it. You know what I'm saying? I find that
Well, are you talking about um Donald Trump? You're talking about
Donald Trump, yeah, that's
Kushner?
no Donald Trump.
Because the collusion thing is usually with shit, is it Kushner or Junior? Oh my God, I'm forgetting now.
This
Um,
Kutcher.
I think it's with Kushner because the thing with Trump is uh, what is it? Yeah, so the thing with Trump is they're just worried that that like I don't know. It didn't seem like, as far as I've seen, no one is actually investigating Trump specifically. They're investigating the campaign. and it
Yes.
doesn't look like anyone's actually looking at Trump yet, but they're looking at all of his family.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's like, well,
yeah.
Kushner, you like specifically talked to a Russian lawyer
Mhm.
saying that
Well,
you wanted
yeah.
to get dirt on the person. That's literally collusion.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's
I
like the
yeah.
textbook definition. I mean,
Yeah. So basically, no. What I was trying to say is that like, well, we don't know if Trump actually colluded or not. We don't know if he was actually involved in
we
all these dealings or
we
anything
we
like that.
know exactly. That's the problem. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know if Trump did anything. We know Kushner did.
Or we're now finding out there's a lot more people who are actually were involved. People in the campaign, or a lot more people were involved, um, with this suspected colluding. But we don't know how far how far at the top it reaches, pretty much. So the two this was that was Ben Shapiro's opinion on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so
Actually, now that I look back at it, it looks like they're investigating Trump more now, huh? Because they're asking for all the files on his actual presidency,
yeah,
and it seems like they're definitely investigating him for the obstruction of justice
yeah.
charge because of firing Comey.
But they're not really saying much. Or like, yeah, it's kind of getting it's basically getting close to him. All these different charges are starting to now get very very close to him, if not to him
Yeah.
personally. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something. I don't know. I'm not sure how long that's gonna take. It's probably gonna take another year, probably the end of the year.
Yeah, it'll take a while. I mean, well, it's moving really fast, but what was it? The one with Reagan took a few years.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
the
it took a
Iran
while.
Contra. You talking about Iran Contra?
I said Reagan, didn't I? I meant Nixon.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah. Oh
well, Iran
man, I don't
Contra is
know how
another
long
one.
the Iran
Yeah,
Contra.
but yeah,
Yeah, that
that
one is a good one. I have no clue how long that one went on for.
yeah.
Though.
That was I like that one. That was funny. He's basically saying that like I didn't know what my people were doing. I just kind of said
Yeah.
okay, and it was not me. That's a funny one.
Yeah. And
I
then
want
what was it? Oliver North, who like committed treason and then just kind of got away with it.
yeah, basically. I wonder if that's gonna be the same thing where he just like, oh, I didn't know about this, and like I'm just gonna, I had no idea that was going on. So how can I have been involved if I didn't know what was going on, type of thing. I would not be surprised if
Hmm.
it goes to that, because that's a pretty good excuse. But if they find really good evidence that he was involved, you can't really use that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to look out for in the coming months. But it is getting a lot closer to Trump. On other news, I guess we can just kind of turn to weather, because for some reason I do like talking about the weather and natural phenomena.
Even though in the very first podcast, you're like, yeah, I don't really like talking about hurricanes. It's just water.
I guess we can talk about the earthquake. That's something that hits a little closer to home. It's happened. It happened again on Tuesday. Um,
Hmm.
I think about 200 people have died, and the earthquake has the result of the earthquake has kind of centered on a school that a lot of children were still in. I'm not sure about how many people are still trapped, but they are still looking for survivors. Um, and it was pretty bad. But I think something interesting to talk about is kind of like the reason why the earthquake in Mexico, or all these earthquakes in these undeveloped countries, or natural disasters, for example, are so terrible in these undeveloped, or these third world countries, you can say. I was reading an article from BBC, and basically they're looking at why some buildings were standing and some were not. And there was two things about it. So one of the things was that Mexico City, or a lot of the surrounding area, was built on like natural waterways. And so one of the things that a lot of people don't know about Mexico City is that you're actually sitting on a big giant lake, and especially like there's like waterways leading to the lake in Mexico City.
Hmm.
And so what they did is they've actually built a lot of the city on like very loose ground. Um,
Hmm.
so essentially what that does is that in an earthquake it makes the shaking a lot worse. And so not only is that a thing, they're not sure if that was the only reason why that some people died, but another reason that could be seen is that the building codes in Mexico City are not that. Um, they're in 1980s there was a very big earthquake in that same area, and after that they then changed the building codes to make the area a lot more earthquake resistant. But what happened is that a lot of those codes were not really enforced, and people there, they just kind of
Yeah.
built whatever they want to build. So they just knock down walls and just build using different types of materials, um, and not really seeing that an earthquake can kind of strike and happen to all those people. And of course, it kind of hurt them in the end, of course. So there's kind of two things with that, especially when you look at like developing countries. Especially when it comes to like building codes and those types of codes, it takes money to kind of enforce those things, right? It's not just, oh, I'm gonna put this law in and just like, it's gonna solve itself. It's like you
Yeah,
have to like go
it
through
has a
it.
lot of much things to worry about
Yeah,
to go
exactly,
around enforcing all of the building codes.
exactly, and it kind of bites them in the end where they have like children who are trapped in this in a school, below the age of 10.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard though because it's like, it's already shitty enough that now this earthquake happens and it just got even worse for a lot of those people who already. I bet you, not a lot of them are in the best scenarios in their life. And I don't see it. I don't see it getting better. It's gonna happen again. If it happened once, it
Yeah,
happened twice. It's gonna happen again, and then they're gonna have this disaster on their hands. Um, and they're not gonna be able to do anything about it.
yeah, and I mean, even beside all the people dying, which is already bad enough,
Yeah,
people that escaped from the building are now homeless,
exactly.
and it's yeah, it's a very big problem to say the
Um,
least.
yeah, you can definitely see. And I also talking about undeveloped countries, undeveloped areas. Puerto Rico was another one. A lot of the people who lived in Puerto Rico. I mean, Puerto Rico, of course, is a part of the U.S., but it almost feels like it's not part of the U.S. because it's kind of like it kind of feels like Latin America in terms of its third wilderness. And not only that, the Puerto Rico as a state is well, it's a province, not a state. Um, it's a territory. It's a territory, right? That's its official status.
It's
It's U.S.
yeah,
territory, yeah,
yeah,
or it's like a special territory, or whatever. But basically, a lot of people
yeah,
who are there, the state or the local government is extremely in debt, and a lot of people there lived in very poor housing conditions. And it comes to a point where like almost same, like 70,000 people need to be evacuated from the island. And a lot of people were like left homeless out of it. And I forget. I was watching the nightly news, and they were basically saying that like almost every home is destroyed. Like there's very few standing buildings, probably except for like homes that are built like in really nice areas or like the hotels that kind of dot the island.
mm,
And so you have those two types of things going on, and you just kind of see this trend of how the Houston thing was very bad, but it's the people who are have money and have the homes that or have the capital to kind of rebuild what they can do. It's they can kind of survive it. They can go on their insurance and do it. But a lot of people who don't have the insurance, don't have the capital, and don't think that those people who are really going to be affected by it. So it's this
yeah.
is this is my thing though, right? Like the hurricane, the Hurricane Houston kind of happened, or not Houston. What was it called? What was it hurricane?
Harvey
Harvey. There we go.
hit Houston.
Hit Houston, yes. And there was so much news coverage on it, right? Like, look at all the damage. Look at all the damage. Look at the damage, right? But then once Harvey's done, I've not seen one nightly news story, or I say nightly news because I think this is like mainstream news media
Yeah, I would
because
say
it's
I have a problem when you're talking about this. 'Cause I'm like, really? I've seen some, but I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you mean like on TV
yes,
and
on TV, like because if you watch even on CNN, like I don't think I've seen on CNN. I have CNN now, but I don't really watch all that much because I already know what's going on, so I have to watch the TV program on it. Um, but like even on CNN, I have not seen much about them talking about like the trials that people are going through and like how can we maybe help poor people when they're like is there any types of programs for poor people to kind of get out of these situations. It's kind of like the mainstream media only cares about the destruction that occurs in a certain area instead of worrying about okay how can we prevent these types of disasters from. I mean the disasters are going to happen, but like how can we like soften the effects for these types of people. And is the mainstream media only caring about the destruction that occurs in one single area? Like I bet you Maria's gonna happen, and then like the nightly news is just gonna forget about it once destruction and weather is gonna be done. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's a little my that's
Yeah,
my
I
other
mean,
thing on it.
so yeah, I think the thing with that is though, it's just there's, tragedies are happening literally constantly
Hmm.
somewhere in the world,
Yeah.
and you can't cover all of them. And
Yeah.
even if you did, no one would care anymore. You would desensitize everyone in the world to tragedies, and it would just I feel like it would almost be worse if you covered
But
every single
but
one.
but to be fair, the news media they kind of they cling to the tragedies. That's only because if you look at the local news, for example, I bet you the entire thing is gonna be just negative things instead of like productive things. Like, okay, how can we solve this problem of either like crime or like drug abuse or like poverty? Like, is there ways in which we can? I mean, I bet you there's, I mean, one or two stories, but like, I bet you the majority of the program you're gonna remember is basically how many people were murdered this day, or like like what big accident was there, or what the traffic was like because of something like this. It's kind of
Mhm.
like I see nothing productive from watching the news, the mainstream news. I mean, like you watch the nightly news or like
Yeah,
the
I mean, I
local.
think that's the problem is to actually get something out of the news, you have to tailor it a lot. You have to know where to look.
Hmm.
And I mean, the vast majority of people aren't going to spend any portion of their lives trying to figure out what kind of news they're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it all started when we had the political science class,
Yes.
and he was like, "Oh, like read the news every day." I was like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah.
And then I started to read it. And I'm like, "Wow, some of this is absolute bullshit. I need to
Hmm.
stop reading that one or that one." Like,
Yeah.
even though I just started reading it, I'm like, "Okay, this news source is like garbage."
Yeah.
Even God, I don't remember which one it was, but there was one particular news source that was just consistently biased, but not biased one specific way,
Hmm.
but it was always biased. It's like I'd
Yeah.
read an article and it was horribly biased on the left, and then I read another article, it's horribly biased on the right, and I'm like, what is this?
Hmm.
Like, do they only write opinion pieces?
Yeah.
It was weird. It's yeah,
That's why I only watch the
and I
BBC.
think that's one of the big problems is even when
Yeah.
news stations try to cover like, okay, how do we fix this problem? It's like, okay, on this side we have the expert with the PhD. He's been studying this thing for his entire life. And on the other side, we have someone who learned everything off of YouTube videos and a few blogs.
Yeah.
And we're going to give them equal time
Hmm.
because why not? And it's like, wow, that's stupid. Why are you doing this?
Hmm.
It's like everyone's opinion matters equally. Well, no, it doesn't.
Isn't that
It
like a
just
isn't
doesn't.
that like a fallacy where it's like if you're not an expert on the subject, it's kind of like your opinion's not really like measured that high. I think it's like
You could try to call it a, I mean, you could call it a fallacy, but then you're getting into the fallacy where just because it's a fallacy doesn't mean it's wrong.
oh, true.
I'm just saying you shouldn't give equal credence to someone's opinion who says the world is flat
Hmm.
to, you know, like any sane person, I guess, in that example. But let's say with climate change, it's like, okay, well, we have 99.9% agreement among all climate scientists,
Hmm.
but for this program, we're going to have one scientist and one crazy person. Let's go.
Hmm.
Like, there comes a point in certain subjects, there's definitely, you know, there's certain subjects that are completely debatable, 100% debatable.
Hmm.
When it comes to cold hard facts,
Hmm.
having an opinion doesn't matter
Hmm.
anymore.
But if you I think some of that kind of applies, but I think it's kind of interesting to see people from different points of like the education spectrum or come from different fields look at a subject because with me and you, we're gonna look at something very differently, right? You're gonna look something like a very science aspect and
Hmm.
cold hard facts and information and things like that or numbers, and I'm gonna look at it from a historical perspective or something that's more like an anthropological perspective based on case studies and
Hmm.
people have things have done. So I think that does apply, but I think it's also cool to bring people from different fields to kind of look at a different to look at a subject. And I think you'll get a
Yeah.
very interesting picture of that. But I think they're both
I
operate.
think I
Yeah,
think it
go.
really depends on what thing is being debated because I love
Yeah,
debates and I love hearing different points of view.
yeah.
But there are certain subjects, or no, let's say this: there are certain opinions about any subject
Mm-hmm.
that are just so ludicrous
What do you mean by
that they don't
okay?
really deserve to be heard because it doesn't
I
offer
see.
anything.
I see. I see.
If it doesn't benefit the conversation, it's kind of weird to have it.
I think one thing that people who are who come from different backgrounds or educational backgrounds, like even though
Hmm.
they have different knowledge on that thing, they're still bringing in the same. They still think in the same way, and what I mean by that is like they're both bringing like evidence to what they're
Yeah.
saying. They're not
Hmm.
just spitting things out and just stating nonsense. They're actually
Yeah.
if it sounds like nonsense, but yet they're bringing out um good evidence and facts about what they're saying, then their nonsense is now tailored into something that's discussable. Um,
Yeah. I
that's
think, like I said, I think the easiest one to look at is just like flat Earth people, which has become a thing recently for some
yeah.
reason,
I don't know why.
where it's like it's if you look back like 20 or 30 years, there's like stories of like, oh yeah, there are people who are flat Earth societies
Hmm.
in order to, I mean, like flat Earth, they're called societies. There's a club.
Yeah.
In order to, the two that I've heard are they would do it as one of the things where debate teams love to find something that's impossible to defend
Yeah.
and then try to defend it, and that's one of the things that would be chosen.
Yeah.
And the other one is as a test for people who are physicists, as
Hmm.
like the ultimate test of okay, the Earth is flat. Now figure out like rules for why you see, because with science it's like okay, we observe something,
Hmm.
like we observe it, it's clearly happening,
Yeah.
but why does it happen? So
Yeah.
it was the ultimate test of like okay, now the Earth is flat. That's just a fact. Why does everything happen the same way still? It's like, oh my God, why does it happen the same
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
But it's like, so if, so that's the main thing I think. It's just like, okay, if, so someone comes to you and says the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
I mean, do you actually listen to their opinion about it? Like, when
Yeah. Yeah.
it's something we've known for literally thousands of years.
And on that note,
It-
even like Columbus, or those people knew the Earth wasn't flat.
Dude,
Like,
I know, literally thousands of years. Aristotle knew the Earth was round.
yeah. Who was the guy who did the diameter of like the Earth? What was his name? He
Oh,
understood
geez,
like,
I don't remember.
but yeah,
Yeah, it was the guy who like measured the shadows. Then he walked like was it like 100 miles or something,
yeah.
and measured it again. And he figured out he was really close. God, who was that? I don't remember.
I forget. I learned it.
Uh,
I forget which class was that? Oh, I think it was like in math class or something like that. I think I learned it.
random.
Some random. I think it was like a problem or something like that. But yeah, like even like a good example is like when Columbus he sailed to the Americas, like those people didn't think the world was flat. They thought the world was like a lot closer. Like the Earth was smaller essentially, and
Yeah,
that
they thought it was no, it wasn't even that. It was well, Columbus thought the Earth was smaller. It was the people who are educated were like, okay, yeah, based on calculations, we know the Earth is this big,
yeah.
so you're gonna have to go across a lot of ocean to get over here.
Hmm.
And Columbus was like, no, it's probably smaller than that. I bet I can make it.
Yeah.
And he was really wrong.
Mhm.
If there hadn't been a continent there, he would have died at sea, like really bad. Okay, so the guy's name was Erat. Oh God, it's an ancient name. Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes of Cyrene. Anyway, that was back in, it says 300 BC, so
yeah.
pretty long ago.
That's crazy. I mean, like, who would? Which? It's almost like going to the what? It's probably worse than going to Mars, right? To be one of those explorers. What do you think? Because like if like you start from the Earth, you go to Mars, there's Mars, right? Like you
Yeah.
probably know how long it's gonna take. But if you're like Vasco da Gama or like on Columbus, you're just like, bro, there's something out there. We don't know. You might die. We're not sure how long it's gonna take. But we're gonna go find some stuff. You guys are gonna get rich. Like, what sane person would do that? I mean, I would think that like if you're like in Spain or whatever, or like in Italy or wherever in Europe, and you're just like bored out of your mind, and you think you're just gonna rot on
Mhm.
Europe, I'd say, you know what? I would go. I would go.
I don't know. I think I would. I probably wouldn't.
I don't know.
I'm not crazy enough to. That's the thing. I think if I lived in that time and I managed to like happen to be born in a rich enough family to be educated, I'd be like, no, dude, you're super wrong.
Hmm.
The Earth is way bigger. Why do you think it gets smaller than everyone who does math? and then he would return. I'd be like, what the hell happened? What do you mean you found India? That doesn't make any sense. And I would just be confused.
Hmm. That's another thing. He thought it was India. He called the people Indians because he thought it was India.
Yeah.
And he actually landed in Hispaniola, which is the modern day Dominican Republic. Or
Yeah.
man.
Or
Yeah, it was.
no, I think yeah.
Yeah, I'm a history guy. I should know these things.
You should.
But yeah, so that's that. So that was.
How did
so-
we get on this topic again? I don't even
Oh,
remember.
it was.
Oh, debating. We
yeah.
were talking about debating or something.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So speaking of Spain, I think something that's very interesting that's going on in Spain. We have Catalonia, which is basically the most northeastern province of Spain. It's kind of close to France. They're gonna try to get their independence from Spain, kind of like what Scotland was trying to do with England or the United Kingdom.
Mhm.
And basically, what's going on there is that, Catalonia, for example, is very different from Spain. because they have like their own like cultural heritage, their own history, and they also speak a different language as well. And
Mm.
so their mindset is basically like, well, they're like the richest, like the second richest province in Spain, if not the richest. And basically, what they're thinking is that a lot of their taxes are not going back to the state, but they're actually going to the government of Spain or Madrid, where their Spain's capital is. And right now, they're trying to get independence. They're trying to do actually, no, they're trying to do a referendum to then try to get independence. But the interesting thing from that is that unlike what happened in Scotland and in the United Kingdom, is that according to the Constitution of Spain, that it's illegal for states to do these referendums without Madrid's consent, pretty much. And
Mm.
basically, the thing that's going on is Catalonia and the people who were there basically saying like we know it's not constitutional, but we're gonna get this referendum done, this vote, pretty much. We're just gonna try to get it done essentially, and Madrid's basically saying, no, you're not. And so I think it's like November, like September. It's like November. It's like in November, like November 1st, I think. So it's coming up pretty closely. And so what the central government is trying to do is actually, they're they're actually trying to take away poll boxes, pretty much. They're taking away like flyers for the referendum. They're trying to close down the referendum site to try to so you can vote or whatever or find information on it. And there's a saying that if it does go through, they might actually fine the mayors of Catalonia, like all the mayors who reside in there.
Hmm.
And so they've even called like the national. They even like Madrid has even like taken control of the local police force and brought in like government police forces or the La Guardia Civil, which is like their version of an FBI kind of.
Hmm.
So they actually like have deployed people there, and it's extremely interesting what's going on there because we think a lot of these nation states is like one people or whatever, but like in reality, like there's different there's a culture within the culture,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy.
It's like Quebec.
So yeah, it's why Quebec, and so that's something that's going on really interesting. Like how it's almost kind of I heard this also similar is like of course you have Texas always trying to like get out of the union and now I think it was California who actually tried to put a ballot on next year's I guess whenever
Yeah.
they do their
Yeah.
mid races.
California's been trying to put a ballot to secede for
Long
at the
time.
very least 30 years.
Hmm.
At least, because my dad told me, he was like, yeah, the very first thing, very first thing I ever like signed after I became old enough to vote was to try to put making California secede from the union on the ballot. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
And that's crazy because it's like Catalonia kind of like the Catalonia problem kind of reminds me of like California, for example. Like Catalonia,
Yeah,
like
it's rich.
if it was yeah, if it was to become its own state, it'd be rich enough to be its own little country. California would be like
Yep.
I feel like the 10th or the 8th richest country in the world. I think
Yeah,
it
that's the
was
thing. It seems like either the rich or the insane states are always the one that are trying to secede.
yeah.
Actually, I guess Scotland's an exception. Scotland's not terribly wealthy. Like
Hmm.
it's like pretty on par with England, isn't it?
It's a little bit less than England, probably by a decent amount. Because with England, you have a larger population, plus you have like Manchester, London, Liverpool, these
Yeah,
very
that's right.
large
There's a
cities.
lot more tourist stuff there.
Yeah, but with Scotland, for
A lot more
example,
goods too.
With Scotland,
Hmm.
they didn't. They actually did not. It was close, but they didn't. Of course, they didn't break off, and they're doing it because of the Brexit
Yeah,
thing.
I was bummed about that. I wanted them to succeed.
Oh, I don't know. I was indifferent. I was indifferent. But the Catalonia thing is kind of really interesting because it kind of corresponds with what I'm doing with research in for my history research.
Mm.
And I talked about the research on the video that's on the YouTube. You guys can check that out. But like it's kind of like that thing where it's just like you know not everybody like in Spain for example you also have the Basques people which is like in northwestern Spain where they even
Mhm.
like themselves they also speak a different language. It's Basque was very different. But even within the country there's like these little divides. And so it's kind of really interesting to see how a state's kind of like saying nope you're not gonna we're like anti-democracy kind of but like it's like you guys voted for this constitution pretty much.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I don't know. I guess you could call it anti-democracy, but it's very pro-republic.
Yeah.
Because, most of these countries, I don't know if there's any country that's just a pure democracy. They'd have to be really
Oh,
small.
like a direct democracy, what you're saying? They're all republics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
got you.
mean. Because we're democratic republic. Because a direct democracy is just it's like, okay, we've all decided we want to vote on this thing.
Hmm.
Okay, we got we got one vote more than you, so now
Yeah.
that thing is law.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, what was
It's
saying, like in Athens was a direct democracy. Like everyone had a vote, and
yes,
like this
yeah,
is
it has
what
to be
happened.
very very small
Hmm.
to be that. I don't know. I don't know enough about Spain. I feel like
Yeah.
this would probably be a bad thing for everyone involved. Because
Yeah.
if a country loses one of its most, let's say, profitable states,
Yes.
they're going to be very upset. Like I think worst case scenario, you're looking at a civil war, or even more. I mean, well, like legitimately. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're just like, hey, we're a different country now, and they're like, well, no, you're not.
Hmm.
Worst case scenario is a civil war. I guess best case scenario is.
Crackdowns. They're
I was
trying to.
thinking like the way China treats Hong Kong, where it's just
Oh,
like, hey, we're a
oh, two.
country. No, you're not.
Well, actually, that's the two systems, one country, whatever. Kind of like
Yeah.
China.
Or
China is so weird. Like basically, it's like, yeah, you have your own little government, but you're still connected to China. Like we're still gonna use China as military, but you kind of do whatever you want. And supposedly that little spectral thing is gonna end like in 80 years or something like that until they become one state.
yeah, or like Tibet, the way Tibet, where like Tibet's like we're a country, and China's like, no, you're part of us,
Yeah.
and all the other nations are like, we're just gonna leave that alone because we want to be able to do stuff with
Or
China.
or Taiwan is another awesome example of that, where it's like
Yeah,
Taiwan is
I
still.
recently met
Yeah. Go.
a Taiwan, someone who's from Taiwan,
Yeah.
and she hates people because, well, she hates China, but I mean, consequently, she ends up hating Chinese people,
Yeah.
because of that. Because I guess her parents in lived in China or something, and they had to flee to Taiwan,
Oh yeah.
and she doesn't like the way that the Chinese government treats Taiwan or something similar.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I'd never really
Yeah.
heard about it before from someone directly.
But it'd be
It was
interesting.
interesting.
It'd be interesting because Europe as a continent is like supposedly the birth of like the democracy, right? Like this is where the revolution happened, and this is where democracy was kind of born, pretty much. Like when you talk about the West, you
In
think
Europe,
about Europe. Like when you talk about like the West.
generally,
Sorry, what'd you say?
like
Generally.
generally. No, go
Yeah, yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Like generally, that's what you think. I mean, that's what I'm not sure if that's what you think,
Yeah.
but like a lot of people think like if you think the West, you think democracy, and Europe's kind of like the originer of the West, and pretty much expanded outwards, and U.S. is kind of like the stepchild of, or the child of European Western democracy. And it'd be interesting to see something
Mhm.
like that go on, where it's all like these people are trying to vote for what they think is right, but you have someone else, basically saying, no, this isn't what you can't vote for. Like this is the law, pretty much. And so you might see crackdowns, very violent crackdowns, kind of what happened in I think it happened in Greece as well. People getting very upset with what was going on with the government and all the things. And so what the
Mhm.
Spanish government's trying to do is they're trying to be very polite by like they've actually like they're trying to take like the ballot boxes is another one that they're trying to do. They're trying to take out the ballot boxes, and actually the
Yeah.
Catalonians have actually hid a lot of the ballot boxes from public view, so they can't be stolen.
Mhm.
So really interesting to see kind of how they deal with it. Um, and then in Germany as well, you have this is kind of related since we're in Europe already. Like in Germany, for example, you have I don't know the party government, but Angela Merkel's party. I think
Mhm.
she's like the
Conservative
Democratic
Party.
something religious party, whatever Christian DCP. I think.
Well, I thought
Dem-
they were just called like the Conservative Party or something.
I was like I think it was the Democratic Christian or the RCP or whatever. They have weird names, but basically like Angela Merkel, like
They
she's
do have
rule.
really weird names.
Yeah, and don't get me started on their
Oh, you're
government.
right. Yeah, Christian Democratic Union of Germany. Wow. Okay.
I've got it right.
Interesting.
So basically, with Angela Merkel, for example, there was something going on interesting there where you had like the nationalists, who are they're kind of like Trump in a sense, Trump's party and like
Well,
his.
yeah. I mean, he ran on nationalism. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have like the nationalists, and you have Angela Merkel who's ruled there for the last 10 years, I think. She's been there for a long time.
Mhm.
And so what happened with that is basically she'd won the presidency by a pretty large margin, but her party took a pretty decent hit. I think the Nationalist Party they took like 13%
Yeah.
of of their parliament, I guess you can say. So now what's gonna happen in their parliament is basically like they're like it's not all one people. There's like many different little parties in, and now you have the nationalists who are now starting to take a pretty big hold into there, and a lot of that comes around like the immigration policy, and
Yeah.
basically like we have a lot. You're taking like a lot of migrants from refugees from Syria, the Syria conflict, or other parts of the Middle East, or North Africa. And so that was one of the things they were running on it, and the reason why is because they were actually afraid that this might be the first time that the Nationalist Party, something like far right, would actually have as much support as they had maybe like pre World War II. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were actually concerned about that. But I don't want to say it's a good. I guess you can say it's a good thing that Angela Merkel won, but it was kind of like a hollow victory. And the reason why it kind of switched this way is because they were afraid of what was going on. They didn't feel safe, especially what was going on with France, what's happened many times with France and England.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of worried about what's going on there. And then also the travel bans you have in the U.S. has also kind of been a consequence at that as well. So you kind of see Europe even more. Europe considers itself even more under siege from these people who are kind of integrating within these countries. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this European idea that they've had since the idea of imperialism is kind of starting to go away. And I think that's something that you kind of have to like shed off, but it's really hard because that's kind of how people think of themselves.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
nationalism's been rising a lot lately. It hasn't. It seems like it had a lot of momentum, and then it kind of slowed way down.
hmm
Not necessarily slowed down. I guess the other side of the spectrum gained a lot more momentum. A
hmm
lot of people got very worried.
hmm I was looking on YouTube and it kind of connected to this. It was on what was it? It was on Crash Course. I didn't watch the video, but I had an idea of the argument. But the argument that the guy was doing, it was on the world history portion of it, was is
Uh-huh.
globalism good? Is it good or is it bad?
Mm.
What's your take on it? What would you say? Just it's kind
Um,
of
I'm not sure. Like which aspect of globalism?
I guess the idea of people being a lot closer, people, with the advent of new transportation, more people would go in different countries a lot quicker. Currency, how business is done. Um, I guess those
Mm-hmm.
maybe like a health wise, those types of things.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like we talked about this before. I don't not on the podcast, but like just to each other, where it's like can there? I think the thing we had talked about was like universal language
hmm
or something similar.
Yeah, I
Where it's
think so.
just how similar culturally can the entire world get,
hmm
and is it a good thing?
Yeah.
Because it's you lose out on a lot of little cultures, and they're interesting and everything. But I mean, I feel like the more culturally similar people are,
hmm
the better.
hmm
Just it ends up creating a lot more peace.
hmm
But on the other hand, it also creates a lot less, just
Diversity.
innovation and
Oh, I know.
creativity. Yeah, I would say diversity, but not just that. It's more than that. I mean, it's like the second step of that. It's like, okay, yeah, now you have less diversity. And then the consequence of that is you have fewer viewpoints,
Hmm.
which means you have fewer ideas, you have less innovation, you have less just of a lot of things.
hmm hmm
And then also you have things like where like you let's like really low scale wow, really small scale globalism with the
hmm
European Union where they share one currency, and the consequence of that is you have tons of different economies with one currency,
hmm
and it creates really weird situations like
hmm
where one country is completely defaulting on everything and everything's going terrible, and that should be making their money crash. And then you have Germany who's doing really well and it's making the euro really strong.
hmm
And it's like, okay, so I don't know. I think it's good overall, but it creates a lot of weird situations.
hmm
and you definitely lose out on certain things if you have absolute globalism, if you have like the absolute the conclusion of it
Yeah.
where everyone is has the same media and has the same everything.
So would you say would you say that the human race was I'm trying to say this kind of like a good question, or I guess you can say. Would you say that
Sure.
humans were kind of they were not meant to be one unit or one family? They are meant to be many families. Would you kind of see what I'm trying to ask?
You know what? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't. Let's say I wouldn't say it in that way. I would
Okay.
say that the way humans developed is humans are meant to be in a very small group.
Okay.
So that means either there's only a very small amount of humans or a
Mhm.
very large amount of groups.
Hmm.
You know, in the past,
Mhm.
it was like, okay, how many, there's even like the relatively contemporary thing where it's like how many people, like how many actual like friends are you gonna make throughout your lifetime? It's like, yeah, about 100.
Mhm.
About 100 people on average
Mhm.
are you actually gonna be friends with?
Mhm.
And in like modern times, people are like, yeah, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook and I have 10,000 followers and I know all of them. It's like, no, you don't.
Mhm.
And even the 100 number, I mean, if you go back just a few thousand years,
Mhm.
100 people is like a magnitude larger than most humans would have met
Yeah.
throughout their lifetime.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that humans are meant to be in group or in are meant to be in distinct groups. It's more just, humans are meant to be in very small groups.
Yeah.
So if all of the groups end up being identical, that's great, but it's just very unlikely.
The one thing I would note to that is that I kind of agree with you that we're not meant to know 6 million people or whatever. But I think the nation state has kind of been built upon that, where it's just like we're like what we're a part of the United States. We're a part of this group, right, of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know every like I guess in Sacramento, right? If you live in Sacramento, like that's the unit you're a part of. But do you know that's the city you're a part of, right? But do you know like everybody in Sacramento? Like no, you don't. And like
Yeah.
we're a part of like the United States, this nation state, and the nation state is kind of built upon like of course we don't know everybody, but for some reason we die for this country. We even though we don't know the person who lives like in Alabama or whoever, we probably know like 10 people there. And the nation state is kind of predicated on the fact that, and I forget the person I was this is the person was I'm trying to think it was I'll probably put it in the description. But basically the idea was that it's kind of built off like print media. Like the basic thing is like if you read a newspaper, you can kind of attach yourself to this imagined community. His name, oh, Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities, awesome book. But basically you can attach yourself to that community because if you were to read a newspaper, you can kind of imagine your fellow countrymen in the same country reading like the U.S. like you what's it called, like the New York Times or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like I'm trying like U.S. Weekly News or all these different things, and so you kind of attach yourself to like this imagined community because you kind of think that everyone else is doing the same thing as you are doing. So first off, I would say that I think that with globalization, I think it is a good thing because well, for one, I think globalization has always been a part of our world. Even if you look towards the like the early migrations, like to like you have people start in Africa, right? And then you have people move to Europe and then to Asia, and then from Asia, then you go into North and South America and Central America.
Mm-hmm.
So I think globalization has always been a part of our history. And I think how that globalization has always just kind of continued. First, it was people just transmitting themselves to different places, and
Uh-huh.
then it became especially in the medieval ages and the earlier in the Renaissance. You had ideas being traveled. You had ships and trade going on, and then when the Americas were rediscovered by the Europeans, especially by Columbus, then it got
Mm-hmm.
expanded even more, and now it's being done with a lot more pace, a lot more things are being sent back to forth. So I would say it is a good thing, but of course there are things that come with it. There's a lot more chances for disease, which is probably one of the biggest things I can think of. Um, I'm trying to think what else could be negative about it. I don't really see any.
Well, I mean, there's the potential loss of cultures. There's a large
Yeah,
number of cultures that are completely,
yeah.
or even languages that are just going to be completely gone very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's even like you can look up a list. I don't remember. There's some name for them. It's like endangered languages or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah.
where
I've
there's a
heard.
list. It's like here's all these languages, and here's how many people still speak them, and there's a lot of them where there's only one person left.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I don't know, and that's the thing where it's like from a sentimental perspective, I'm like, oh no, all these cultures and things are going to be gone.
Yeah.
But from a utilitarian perspective, it's like, well,
Yes.
that's fine. I mean, if everyone spoke the same language,
Mm-hmm.
everything would be so much easier. Life would be so much easier for everyone
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of that's why I'm like kind of on the fence of like, is it a good thing or not?
Yeah.
Or I guess I'm not on the fence. I'm more like on both sides of the fence at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think globalization, like, I think we're already in a globalization state. The only thing that's not keeping us from a single one nation country is basically the fact that we have these independent countries and their borders, and people are very much afraid to kind of. I've already said this before, but they're kind of afraid to leave, like their borders open, have everybody come in, and I think like good examples like people look at the EU and you have like you have these open borders, but then people are afraid because you have people who are moving. If they move to one country, of course they get moved to other places, and
Yeah.
all these little states are now starting to say like, oh well, this is not good for us. Like we shouldn't have done this.
Mm-hmm.
And England is another country who's well, I don't know, England's kind of weird, um,
England
but yeah. So
is weird.
um, they're those people are saying like this is the result of globalization. This is the thing. Um, but I don't know. I think those things already happen within your own country. Look at the United States. The depressions, how many depressions they've gone through without this idea of globalization. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a good example is like the 1920s. During that time, the U.S. was the most isolationist country in the world. You know what I'm saying? With the Great Depression, and they
Mm-hmm.
had one of the worst, events happen to them. Even though they weren't, well, I would say I'll have to cut that back a little bit because after the 1920s, you had a European Great Depression. Um,
Mm-hmm.
But and I would think they're probably at that time I would say the most isolationist, and they had one of the worst, um, you know, economic events happen to them.
You mean
And
the most isolationist that the
Paul,
U.S. has
like
ever been, or the most
since
isolationist in the?
like in recent memory,
Okay,
that basically if you're
sure,
comparing to like now, it's probably the most isolationist in terms of government
gotcha.
policy and things like that nature. And I'd
Mm.
say that since the U.S. has been a little bit, a little bit more like forthcoming with economic policy, a little bit less tariffs and things of that nature, I don't think US has seen a major kind of, effect of that. You know what I'm saying?
No, could you
Okay,
elaborate?
yeah, I'll try to say it a little bit easier. But like basically, since then, the US has not had such a major economic disaster since the US has decided to be a
Mm.
lot more open with their economic actions. I'm not sure if that's
Gotcha.
a correlation, but that's one thing I'm saying when it comes to like this is a result of you have one little country who screws up your entire economy. Well, the United
Hmm.
States is essentially like a union of many states who have their own little economies, so it happens already, even if you don't want it
Yeah,
to.
you're right.
So
Um,
I don't know if
yeah,
that's
I don't know. I've been warned before by economic teachers not to listen to history majors about
yeah.
economics.
I know, but it's funny because they're saying like it happens because like that's what happens with capitalism because it goes up and it goes down, but we don't know why it goes up and goes down. It's just it's like I took a macro class and that's the only thing I got from it is like, okay, that happens, but we don't know why or how. Just shit happens.
It's it's more like, hey, we have a lot of models, and eventually they stop working, so we make new models.
Just like, um, yeah, or yeah. So yeah, that kind of connected to like this idea of like the reason why Spain is wanting to leave and be its own country and how,
Because of globalism.
uh,
Wait, what?
oh, not global. I mean, it's kind of connected to it. Like if they're like their own little state, they can kind of solve their own problems.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Or like with Germany, how like they're kind of in the same boat. Or England is a perfect example of that. And it's kind of they're fighting back against this idea of globalism. That's kind of why I asked, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because a lot of states don't think it is a good thing.
Mm.
But I think there are a lot of positives.
When you're saying globalism, you're like, yeah, the first step of globalism was like migration. I think that might be too literal of a interpretation of the word globalism. I think the first step of globalism was more the cultural spread
Mm-hmm.
between, once we actually had civilizations established farming,
Mm-hmm.
not wandering around in forests.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first step of globalism was the connection between the East and the West, the spread of ideas.
Okay. But you can say it's been a part of our history. I mean, you could make the argument that technically globalism is the moving of people, right? Because if you look at like people from Syria moving to England, right? Or you have like
Mm.
Spaniards moving to like Mexico. Like technically that's globalism. I mean, that's a part of what we consider
It's a
globalism.
part of it. I mean, yeah, yeah, I could see that.
So I mean, I it's kind of hard to say if it's good or it's bad because it's kind of been happening for such a long time already, but we have not a lot of people have considered that word globalism until like the 80s, where people started to really see that come to fruition with the rise of technology and things of that nature. But kind of globalism has already been going on for a long time, so it's like, is it going to come to a point where we're all
Yeah,
one nation
just
or
because it's
whatever?
going, just because it's been going on though, doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean that's a general statement. I'm not really
Yeah,
against
yeah,
globalism that
I,
much.
I agree with that. I mean, but I mean, I know it's been happening, so we haven't been destroyed yet. So I guess it's not a bad thing. The world hasn't
Ah,
ended.
yeah, I think that's a dangerous argument to make.
Yeah. But it's an interesting one though. I mean, it's a very you can come at it from like different sides though, which is and the
Yeah, I
question
mean
is, yeah.
that's most arguments.
And the thing we see is that like, is it going to come to the point where we're going to have one state like a big large one state, no more like we're still have like little small like little representative
You may
states,
become
but
a global state.
yeah, like Solaris or something like that. I don't
We
know.
could. One of my favorite book series is actually has that happen. It's one of the big storylines. Surprisingly, not the main storyline, but one of the big storylines kind of going on in the background is, hey, someone is unifying the entire world under one government.
Hmm.
It's
Guess or not.
yeah. I mean, that was the other thing you said. It was like, okay, we want to do it through democratic means.
Hmm.
Uh, so we're going to give all of the citizens of the country. It was kind of similar to the thing that's going on in Spain. It was like this person sort of took over one country, like democratically, became the leader of it, and then he would send his military to other countries and allow the people in that country to vote if they wanted to join or not. And if they said yes, then they would take over the government and be like, okay, now you're part of our country. And if they said no, they'd be like, okay, and they just leave.
Kind of sounds like my EU4 campaign.
I
um,
don't know. Are you?
I don't know.
You're vassalizing. No, I don't, you're more conquering people. This would be more like if vassalized
Oh,
everyone.
okay. It also sounds
This
like, yeah. Go.
this was much more diplomatic.
Oh, okay.
This was almost purely diplomatic. The only time they really used the military was if the other country resisted the people's whim.
Hmm. That'd be very interesting. I would like to see that like in some author look at it like how would that look? Like would it fall apart like that or would it continue? I think an alien.
Interestingly
Yeah,
enough,
go.
the
Yeah.
book series that I'm referencing is actually a spin-off of another book series,
Yeah.
and the other book series actually fast forwards about 3,000 years.
Yeah.
So you get to see the result of the government, and it's pretty corrupt. It's sort of like the first person unifies the whole world under one government,
Yeah.
and then he dies, and it all goes to shit.
Yeah.
Everything falls apart.
Yeah. You would need some strong personality to keep it all together or a very strong system to keep it together.
Yeah, it was sort of like he was the democratically elected like president,
Yeah.
and then once he died, they decided to not have one presidency but like a council,
Yeah.
and then the council ended up being made up of just like it basically became an oligarchy. It was
Mm.
ruled by a few very rich people, and then it went shit. It
Yeah.
all went down.
Yeah. Um. So yeah. So that's really really interesting. Like if I wonder what. Yeah, so that'd be interesting to see what would happen. And there's like this idea. There's idea models that it would eventually turn into like a one state system. I forget what the term was, but yeah, I took a globalism class. That's why I kind of talked about it. I
Gotcha.
wish a teacher would have done a better job or made more interesting little arguments and more like interesting like
But
subjects.
yeah, more in depth with it. Was
Yeah.
it like globalism 101 or
It was
what was the class?
it was kind of like we just looked at aspects of globalism, and then
Hmm.
we looked at like the two. I remember the two things we talked about was like with China. You know, I have like people who are producing things in China, and then of course they sell it for like really cheap in the U.S. or whatever.
Hmm.
We looked
Yeah.
at that, and we looked at like Brazilian prostitutes and like Westerners coming in, and like what's the dynamic there.
Hmm.
That's all I really matter. Remember, I the thing I was like, she was like, she gave us like aspects of globalism and said like, okay, is this good? Basically, that's basically what she kind of did for us. She was like, we don't know if it's good
Okay.
or we don't know if it's good or bad. Like it's happening. That's kind of all we knew. It's like it's been happening for.
Interesting.
It's like I was thinking to myself like, no shit, it's been happening. Like I came to school to know if it's good or bad, and I don't think the experts understand.
Give me the answers.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to moral arguments, I don't think the teacher's gonna give you the answer.
I think it's up to you.
I don't think that's what the professor is there for.
Yeah. So but no, that's the reason why I just kind of brought that up. Um, so yeah, that's kind of going on right now. Um, I'm trying to see anything else from my notes. That's kind of all I really. I have one more thing, but do you have anything that note that you found interesting in the news?
There's also
Yeah,
the
gotta go.
child governors and the hurricane climate change thing.
I don't care about the child governor.
Yeah,
It was like a
I
funny
know.
story. Don't
Yeah.
care.
Well, it's kind of interesting. In Scandinavia, or is it all of them or certain ones? They actually have like children involved, actively involved in the government. It's actually kind of interesting.
Do you
I don't
think
remember anything about it.
do you think young people should be involved in government? Do you think that's a smart thing?
I do.
You think so?
Okay, yeah. I don't think a child should be governor.
Oh
That
no, no,
I think
no.
that's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
But I definitely think children should be involved in the government because otherwise you end up with what we have right now, where just uh,
So hold up. So
just
let's preference the people like what news story we're talking about. So I think it was in Oklahoma, right? Is that where it was?
Kansas.
Or Kansas? I was close. Um,
Um,
basically this 16-year-old kid was gonna run for governor for Kansas, and he's gonna put himself on the ballot. And the thing is that by the time the ballot comes around, he's gonna be old enough to vote, so he should be good. But in certain states, there's like no age limit to which you can run for governor, and that's one of the states
yeah.
you can be that. So what we're talking about. We're talking about if children should be involved in government or even be hold government positions, and you say yes.
Hmm.
Okay, I kind of agree, to a certain degree. The only reason why I say this because I think I don't know if I want a 25-year-old who hasn't had much experience in the world, you know, be a ruler of people who have had more experience than him. You know what I'm trying to say? But I
Yeah,
think
I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if about the have more experience thing. 'Cause I mean, that would mean you'd have to be in your 80s to run.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the weird thing. If you look throughout history, especially, I'm sure you know this. There's a lot of rulers who are very young who did very well, and there's a lot of rulers who were of a decent age or old who just fucking destroyed everything. I mean, we have Trump right now, and he's acting exactly the same as Kim, who is 30.
Yeah.
So to an extent, it seems like age
Doesn't
doesn't matter so
matter.
much as
No.
the upbringing and the. But I mean, that's why I say to a certain extent. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have a 4-year-old running the government, but.
Well,
I
technically,
mean,
back in the day. Back in the day.
yeah, I don't know. They're probably more of like a figurehead.
Regent. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's like I think I'm just naturally opposed to it just because of, just, our society is pretty against that.
So you would
Our
say
society doesn't
yeah.
want children ruling the government.
So you
But on
should-
the other
yeah,
hand,
go.
it might end up being fine or it might end up being even better.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, one of the big things is, if you have someone who's younger,
Yeah.
who's coming in,
Yeah.
they might not be as cocky. You have someone, I mean, so obviously the most extreme example right now is Trump, who comes in and ignores all of his advisors and just does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
If you have someone who's younger, they might not be so like they're not going to go, "Oh, I know everything," because I have experience, I have wisdom, I'm old. They might be more willing to listen to their advisors, which could be good or bad. I mean, it's
But could you also say that children or young people are a lot more, what's the word, like they're more cocky about what their experience is, because a lot of them go in kind of like I'm trying to give the word in my mouth, but like you know how they're very like they'll do young people do stupid things kind of thing, like they go in kind of cocky and they think they're invincible, and so they don't think they have to listen to anybody and that they know what they're doing.
mm,
You know what I'm trying to say? And I think the one thing,
yeah,
yeah, and there's that argument where it's like, if you have young people in the government, like things are gonna work amazing because they're like they can try new ideas, they can do, they're very much more like, they're flexible. They can do different things. While old people are like, they're gonna follow the way they've been doing for like so long. And
yeah,
I think that it's hard. I don't think that's a very good argument because I think just because you have a young person doesn't mean they're automatically going to be that type of person, and just because you're an
hmm
old person doesn't really mean you're going to be that type of person, like very stubborn or whatever. I think you just need to elect people who are going to act like that and are just going to do those things. I don't think it really matters what the age is. To be fair,
yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the thing is, when when you grew up, like 50 or 60 years ago, you're gonna have a very different mindset from someone who started growing up 20 or 30 years ago.
yeah,
And I think it's better to have a mix. Right now,
yeah,
I mean, what do you think? What's the average age of our Congress people right now? What do you think?
probably 50 to
Like,
40, 60 maybe, like around that age, 40, 50, 60, maybe even
yeah,
high,
like
upper
pretty
40s.
old. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, and they're doing a lot of really stupid stuff.
yeah, yeah.
To be frank, I mean, they're being stubborn and weird and just crazy and insane, and they have all these very old-fashioned morals,
hmm
and they grew up in a time when they were able to be given everything, where college cost $100 and you could make that much after working for a month or two over the summer.
hmm
And they were handed everything. I mean, I'm talking about like the baby boomer generation. They're
Okay.
handed like everything on a silver platter. And then when they got power, they're like, well, I earned this. And they don't actually look at things like how they actually were. They don't look at things objectively. They're just like, yeah, I earned everything that I got. And oh my God, why are we giving all these subsidies? Why is everything so cheap?
Hmm.
I don't remember it being cheap. I had to work for a couple months over the summer. No, let's raise everything. Let's slash everything. Let's give everything to me.
Well, the argument I would say against,
And
yeah, okay,
yeah, go
continue.
ahead.
I was gonna say, well, the argument I would say against that, a lot of people in like those, baby boomers age think that a lot of millennials have been given that same treatment, where it's like, your parents are there, you have the car, you have the computer, you get all these loans to go to college, or like this is idea that young people are given everything or whatever, and
Mhm.
I totally do not. I think every generation has to get after it, no matter what. I think the way in which you get after it has changed, but to get to the top or to get those things, those positions, you still have to get after it. Um, and just in different ways. I think before it was more like you just had to put more hours in probably to get those things, but you're probably gonna get it. Now
Mhm.
it might require a little more luck because you have a lot more people going through those things.
Mhm.
But if but not that much, I don't think. But I think the way in which you get after it has changed to get those positions.
Yeah.
So I don't
So
know.
I guess
Yeah, go
I actually kind of went on a.
rant
I
tangent.
originally was gonna say one thing. I ended up saying something else. But
Yeah,
the
go.
thing I was originally gonna say was okay. So you have everyone. So the average age, let's say in Congress, is like let's just say 60.
Okay.
Throughout like the representatives and the senators. Let's say it's around 60.
Yeah.
What do you think the average age of the country is? It's probably in the 30s.
Probably.
So, and we're a republic. You're supposed to be representative.
Yeah.
So if you're not representing, so if you have 60 or if you have someone who's literally twice as old as their average constituent trying to
Mhm.
represent them,
Yeah.
there's going to be a match there. I feel like things would be better if we had more younger people running. I don't mean like the weird like, oh, they're 16 and they're running. I mean like
Yeah.
late 20s,
But here's the
early
thing. But here's the thing, though.
30s.
Like, who votes in what's it called, midterm primaries? Like, who in terms of presidential primaries, like, presidential races, the amount of people who vote um during those things are like about those age, like 40s, 50s, 60s. Like on like
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
the younger people
don't
don't go out
vote.
and vote as
So it's
much.
like it makes sense that the people who vote represent, the people who are voted in office. So I think the issue is not more young people should run. I mean, or should be in government. I think more young people should vote if they want
Well,
younger ideas.
I think it could go either way.
Okay.
Honestly, I wouldn't say one of those is the cause
Okay.
per
Yeah.
se. I mean, like think about it. If you had more young people run, that might promote more young people to go out. If every
Good.
single year,
Okay.
if every single year, like let's say the DNC just picks, okay, yeah, for this state we're gonna pick the 70-year-old, this one we're gonna pick the 60-year-old,
Mhm.
like, and then you have all these young people who are in their 20s and 30s, and they're like, oh great, I can pick between the person with the extreme old-fashioned morals
Mhm.
or the very slightly less extreme old-fashioned morals. It
Okay.
basically won't make a difference.
So you're
Like
saying that, yeah.
I feel like that's what people look at and that's what they see.
Mhm.
Even if it's not necessarily true,
Yeah.
that's what they see. If you look up and you just see two people running and you can't really tell them apart and you're just like, I don't know.
Like so you're like,
You know,
like good examples like Justin Trudeau of Canada, like a good example, like a somewhat of a younger person running, you can say, or like a Barack Obama type of person, maybe even a little bit younger, like those types of people
yeah,
are
or
running.
like let's say JFK. JFK inspired a lot of people. They were like, "Oh, it's the hip young couple. It's it inspired the whole country when it was like, hey, there's this young guy and
Yeah.
he's looking. It looks like he's doing really good."
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I think it would help by like, okay, let's give this young person a chance to let's put him on the ballot. He probably is not going to win, but let's throw some money behind him and see how he does. And if they see he gains a little bit of traction, we're gonna bump him up maybe the next one, and then maybe gain a little more traction. And I think that's one thing you can help it. But I think another way to also help the situation is have a lot more young people vote, and that will drive more of these different parties to try to nominate younger people into the
That's the thing.
races.
I don't know if it would. I mean, just because they're like, oh yeah, more young people are voting. Okay, the only way I think that would work
Yeah.
is if a bunch of if it's like, wow, we had the largest turnout of 20-year-olds
Yeah.
ever, and they all voted for that party.
Yeah.
That might get the other party to start getting a younger candidate.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't think. Like, let's say even I don't know what the turnout is. Let's just say the turnout rate 30%. I'm pretty sure it's higher than that. Let's say it's 30%
Yeah.
for people 18 to 25,
Yeah.
and then next year suddenly it's 60%.
Yeah.
I mean, why would that make them? Why would that make them get a younger candidate? They would just be like, oh cool,
More people are turning
whatever
out.
we did worked.
I got you. That makes sense.
Like but if younger people just decide to start running, I mean, it's the biggest problem is you need money to run.
Yeah.
If they just if rich young people decide to start running, and that makes more young people like that, I think might cause younger people to start voting more.
Yes.
Like I think that has to be the thing that causes it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, those are some really interesting points. But I think having some young people might make things better. Doesn't mean it's automatically going to change things, but
Yeah.
it'd be definitely interesting to see how it would change things. I think it'd be something really interesting to see. I bet you we made so many like different like fallacies and like so many different like poor arguments like to like if like any political science majors or professors were watching this. Like, nope.
I don't know.
I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
This is
I
my
don't know. As far as
podcast.
fallacies go, it's yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to always watch it. It's okay to use a fallacy every once in a while.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on in the world. Seeing how we can make these changes. What's been going on in your world, Ben? You've just came back from
I
East
just got
Coast.
back. Yeah, I just got back to California yesterday.
Sweet.
Um,
You missing it? The big city life?
I don't really miss the city too much. It's more I miss the wife.
I got you. That makes sense. Good answer. um, but that's cool. That's cool. So you're getting ready for your first big day on Wednesday?
Yeah, first day at Hey, what kind of classes are you taking? How is your sleep schedule as messed up as it is right now? I don't.
Oh yeah,
How?
cause what he's referencing right now is that today I just got up at 3:40.
Yeah.
The thing is that like I was doing really well. Before like I would sleep maybe like 5 o'clock in the morning and get up like at 2, which is totally not good when your school's coming up. And so I've been literally going to sleep like at 1 or like 3ish and getting up like at 10. And so I was at the point where I was getting up at like 9 o'clock. I was going to
Hmm.
sleep like at 1 or 2 and waking up at 9. And then on Saturday, like I had like a very, yesterday I had a very, I don't want to say, it was depressing for me, but in a very like first world type of way. Like I don't know why. So pretty much like FIFA 18 is coming out on Thursday, and so
Okay.
if you have like Origin access, which is like it's almost like a Netflix but for like EA games, you can play the game like 5 6 days early if you pay. The service is like $5 a month, and
Wait, that's
so
for what? Origin what?
Origin access, it's kind of like Steam, but you pay every month and
Huh,
you
I've
get
never
like,
heard of that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware of Origin. I didn't know they had a. I guess they were trying to actually get customers.
Yeah. So one of the benefits you get, there's different benefits, but one of the benefits you get is like if new games are coming out, you can play the game for like 10 hours, like a 10 hour trial, like 5 to 6 days before it comes out. And so I really wanted to try out the new
Hmm.
story mode for FIFA 18, and so I had downloaded it. I downloaded it last over Friday night so I can play Saturday morning. And that's one of the reasons why I woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning was because of that. And so I go on, I play it, and like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm like, what the hell? Like I have the PC for it, like all these different things, and I look on the online like discussion boards and like people are having these problems, and like I had planned my entire day, like I'm gonna play FIFA in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, and then I'm gonna do work, just do different things, more productive things during the night, and like it just consumed me to fix this thing. Like it consumed my entire day. It was bringing me down. It was just like it's such like a first world problem. It was just bringing me down. And then eventually I got it out. I got it. What was it? I finally got it working like around 8 or 9 at night. And so I spent pretty much the entire night playing it. And then I decided like at 2 o'clock in the morning I'm gonna do like the things I wanted to do that later night, that same day.
Mm-hmm.
So I did homework and I did some video editing like at till like 3. And I just like I felt so
Wow.
tired, and maybe because I haven't really because I was trying to bring my sleep like down so I can go to sleep earlier, so it wakes me up early pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. So I guess all those things combined pretty much made me sleep till like 4, pretty much 3, like 2, almost 3 o'clock in the morning today, 3 o'clock in the afternoon
You
today,
mean three? Yeah, I would say 3 in the afternoon.
3 in the afternoon.
Oh
Um,
man.
so my
So what
sleep,
classes are you taking?
yeah, part of that. So um, I'm taking a seminar class on Europe at post 1815 or pre 1815. Yeah, pre 1815. So it's a 5 unit class. I don't really know what it's about. I'm also taking the Russian Revolution class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that it's pretty much in the name. And then I'm taking anthropology of religions is what I'm taking right now. And that should be interesting. And on top of that, I'm doing research for my
Nice.
topic that I'm doing. So it's gonna be, I'm probably gonna be doing, see, I'm at 13 units, so probably 14 units maybe. That's on top of that's with the research units I'm gonna be doing. Hopefully not 15, but we'll see. I don't think it should be that much because I don't have. It's not really that bad because I don't have to be tested for it or anything like that. It's more. I think it's more like a pass or fail probably type of thing, which would make it my life
Hmm.
easier. But yeah. So that's kind of my thing. What about you? What you got going on?
Uh, in life or in classes?
What classes you taking since we're on the topic?
See, I'm taking statistics,
What was that one? Sorry.
human, oh, statistics,
Oh, okay.
the math thing,
Yeah, I got you.
thing with numbers. And I'm taking a low-level physics class. I'm
Which is like a
taking.
high, which is like a high level physics for me. Which is high level for regular people.
No, it's like basically the most basic level of physics. It's probably stuff I already learned in high school, frankly.
I don't think I learned physics in high
um,
school.
I did. I left high school early though. I would have learned more, but oh no, wait, no, I would have done biology. Anyway, moving on. I'm taking OChem, which is gonna suck probably. I'm taking human genetics, which is gonna be freaking awesome.
Mm,
And I'm taking like there's a mandatory class for transfer students for the college.
really? Oh, just for
Yeah.
your college?
So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I got you. I got you. That's cool. Yeah, right on Tuesday. I have a meeting to go to, so I'm going to go to Davis for a little bit. But
Okay.
the past week, not much. I've been working on research. A funny thing with research, I posted on my Instagram, on the History Made Awesome Instagram. So if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. But pretty much, I've been getting a lot more deeper into my research. I haven't really been like trying to figure out the problem. More like, okay, these are the figures that I'm going to talk about, type of thing. So I've been just looking for people who have identified with different groups, and so when I go talk about it and compare the groups, then I can see
Hmm.
kind of like if they were actually doing if they were actually doing it or they were doing it for another reason, whatever the reason why they joined the group or not. And so one of the ways I'm doing it is basically like I think that because this is in the Peninsular War, which is like Napoleonic Wars but in Spain. So me and my professor believe that the British observers will be a lot more like neutral to what was going on because of course they didn't like Napoleon, but in terms of like Spanish government and like Spanish politics, I don't think they were that like one side or another, like either liberal or like more monarchy focused. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the ways I was going to look at the British perspective going on within the Spanish government was like looking at the British ambassadors um,
Okay.
from that time. And so I found one of the guy's correspondences on Google, and so that was
Hmm.
awesome. And then I found another guy, but this guy was a little bit more important because he was there for about 2 years. The other guy was only there for like a year, but the other guy's important because he was there at the beginning of the Spanish Rebellion, pretty much. And so
Hmm.
this guy that I was looking for, I looked for on Google. It turned out that there's his correspondence. They had him, except they were in England, and I was looking for those things for like 2 hours. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, oh my goodness. And his guy, I think his testimony would be awesome if I have it. The good thing is that you can get the documents, except you would have to either go directly to England to view them, or you could
Hmm.
have them printed and probably sent to you. But it costs like I think like £10 a page or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So
How much is it for the original documents?
like $25,000 probably. Probably priceless. I
Probably
don't know.
more. Yeah,
Priceless.
I'd say.
Priceless. But the good thing about what I found is that when it comes to like the Spanish documentation time, the National Archives for Spain, they've actually digitized most of their documents for the Peninsular War. So that's pretty cool. So if I look at something, I'm pretty much gonna have it. Um, and the thing I found pretty much everybody on the French side who was in Spain, the Spanish people who served Napoleon's in Spain. That was kind of
Hmm.
easy because I just read Napoleon's correspondence with his brother, who was the king of Spain. He made the king of Spain. So I found pretty much most of the people. I'm gonna go back right now and I'm gonna just look for a little bit more. But I pretty much have that. I'm set. The hardest part I've been doing for like the past 2 weeks was pretty much like looking for everybody like on the Spanish side, like everyone who kind of made up the Spanish side of the government, pretty much. That one was a little bit more difficult because I had to go through a lot more like different types of works and all the things. And I pretty much
Hmm.
found it basically like just looking at like the history of the Peninsula War from like 1880, like the year 1880, and like a little bit closer to the time
Hmm.
period. And I pretty much
Hmm.
found one document that pretty much, or it was a book on Google. It was History of Peninsula War done by, it was like done like in the 1880s or like 19th century pretty much. And he pretty much gave me the names of everyone who was a part of that group in the Spanish government, pretty much by name. So I was just like, yes. I mean,
Hmm.
I was just like, that made my, that was actually that was actually yesterday, or was it? Yeah, yesterday I think at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I found it. So I'm all like, yes. So it made my day really
Oh.
happy. And so now I'm gonna have a meeting with my professor that I'm working with on Wednesday, and we're gonna go over kind of like the game plan, the structure, how it's gonna work, because this is about a 60-page project, pretty big. It's a thesis pretty much. So it's gonna be a really cool and awesome project. So we're gonna meet with him and try to strategize how we're gonna do it, and then I'm gonna try to like pretty much just create a list of these people and like I'll talk to them about it if this is the way to do it, or if there's another way to do it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm also working on my Spanish because it's kind of crap. According to the app, because I'm doing that's a Duolingo. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. If I told you about it.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard about it. Yes.
Yes. So according to Duolingo, I have about a 30% proficiency in Spanish, or 31%. I just did the new day. I I don't agree with it all that much, but I can kind of feel that I'm like at that. Um, but I'm getting better. It's pretty much just like the thing is that like I feel that with Duolingo it helps you with every part of the language, but what I'm doing and what I need, I don't need to know what bread is in Spanish because I already know that, or like household items. Like I don't need to know
Hmm.
that. I need like people, places, and adjectives and verbs and like describing themselves. That's all. That's really all I need. I don't need like this is how you say I want rice in Spanish. Yo quiero en arroz. I don't need that. I don't think it's gonna be very important when I look at a guy from Spain. He's like, this is what he said to Napoleon, and like, this is what's gonna change everything we think about the Peninsular War. Like he wanted rice. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Are you planning to do any research when you're in at Davis or no?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing research as a career, so I should probably do it while I'm in school. Yeah, I want to get into research as quick as possible.
Yeah, you should
Um,
definitely do that.
yeah, no, I definitely plan to. It'll be much more lab based
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rather than, crawling around the world and stuff.
Well,
Um,
yeah, go.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, no, I hope to get into it like very, very quickly.
because for me, we're gonna get. I don't say this is not getting deep because it's not really. Kind of deep. Not really deep. Kind of deep. But so for me, when I transferred over to Davis, I basically had like it was basically like that thing where it's just like it was kind of a last minute decision to kind of transfer, kind of like you, where it's just like I'm gonna do this, and I was probably had a semester before I went. It was like a no about 2 semesters. It was like the middle of the semester before it, but pretty much like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and so I had to work kind of hard to kind of get my grades up and all those things to get to where I wanted to go. And so when I got there, it was just
Hmm.
like it's just like I just made it. Like I put myself on this journey. It was a longer journey, but it's like I pushed myself to get to this point, and so it was kind of like feeling it out. And I had a little bit of like it was kind of weird for me because I never put myself I never set myself like a high goal and then just like, get it done kind of thing. So kind of want to
Hmm.
kind of get myself kind of arranged and kind of how things work. And it was I would say it was a learning curve for me because, I've been in history and love with it for such a long time. But when I was at community college, it was kind of easy. I won't say it was easy. It was nothing too
Yeah.
difficult for me to grasp onto. There are certain parts that were
Yeah.
kind of difficult, but it was not like a huge learning curve. But when I went to Davis, it was like, it's next level kind of thing. Like the writing has to be a lot better, sharpened up. The way in which
Yeah.
you describe things has to be a lot clearer and context wise. You can't be using you have to use words with proficiency. You just can't use them arbitrarily because words have meaning. And
Hmm.
so it was a big learning curve. And plus I was like with graduate school, that's my plan. I really didn't know. It was more like thing like okay, I got here, and then like last year, like oh, I heard about graduate school. I'm like I kind of blocked that on my head because it's like I have to get to the place. I have to get to the first step. You know what I'm saying? And then second step, I'll
Hmm.
probably think about it a little bit later. And so basically, like it was a learning curve, and I had to get used to it. So by around the last quarter, the last like about I'm gonna say the end of the first quarter, like the last couple weeks of it, and beginning of
Uh-huh.
the first few weeks of the second quarter, I started to figure out the thing about research and what it's like and how that can help you. And pretty much, I just wanted to just get involved in that and just talk about things I would like to talk about. And so I found my
Hmm.
professor like midway through the second quarter, because I found he was really cool and that he enjoyed military history, especially like he was, and especially when I took his class on revolutions it was basically the French Revolution and the way he kind of talked about the military aspects of it is basically things that I had been missing in my regular classes at community college. The things that I would like to talk about military wise, he talked about. We actually spent like days on like a day on it, which was like awesome. So I'm like, this is my bro, this is my guy, and he's an awesome guy too. And also he has a dog too. That's another thing. um, so no, I So I pretty much okay, we're gonna do it, and I ran into a little bit of mix. I was gonna try to do honors, but I did not do the things necessary to get it done. But it happens. So I found another way to kind of do research, and it's an awesome program to allow me to get to that next level and to try to get into graduate school.
Uh-huh.
And so the only problem was is that like for my sister, like my sister's a good example of this, but like the program that I'm in, she was in, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit higher than mine's. But it's based on different things or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but she went through the program junior year. But I'm going through the program senior year, and so her program was like kind of like mine's, where it kind of like sets you to go to graduate school, gives you the tools and
Hmm.
the information pretty much to go to graduate school. But she did it junior year, so that's why she's applying now in her senior year to go to graduate school. But for me, like I
Mm.
kind of like I'm going through the process that she's going through, but in senior year, and I'm kind of thinking to myself like I could. This is something I was thinking about for like the last few months. It was kind of like on my mind when I got out of summer school. Is like okay, now I have to start thinking about my plan pretty much. And so I talked
Uh-huh.
to the advisor pretty much, and she was saying that this is kind of what you're going to be going against, and it's actually pretty competitive. You would think
Yeah.
about like history. I think any graduate program is pretty competitive. I would think.
I think any graduate program is pretty competitive.
Yeah. So like people there's things a couple things. So like a lot of people who are gonna a lot of people have their masters already. A lot of people have already done research and have done talks about their research and published. Some of them have, and so that's the
Hmm.
type of people you're gonna be competing against. And so I've known at least one person who's going to graduate school at NYU, or it's my sister's friend from work. They worked in the undergraduate research program, but she's going to NYU, I think. And I know she did honors history program, and then my sister, of course, she's trying to get to graduate school, but she's already done research and she's already done her talk, and so they were in good places to kind of you know compete for those places that they're going to compete for. And for
Yeah.
me, I was kind of like, well, I could do it. I can try to get the best score I can on my I forget what it's called. It's kind of like the
GRE.
yeah, the GRE. I can try to do my best I can, but I'm not gonna have my research done by the time I apply in December. I'm not gonna have done my talks by the time I've applied at the same time, and I could use the money to spend towards that. But like, I feel that in my opinion that by the time I there's only one little problem with it, but I'll tell you a little bit later. But if I do it the next turnaround, so like not December, it's not December 2017. It was be 2018 January is when you apply. It'll have to be like 2019 of January is when I would apply to get
Hmm.
into the fall of that year. Um, that that I would be in a better position pretty much because I would have done all those things. I would have gotten information and I also would have had a lot more time to study for my GRE because that's a very large. I'll have large time. The only problem with it with me is that I kind of want to don't have a break because I feel like you can get very lackadaisical. You know what I'm saying? If you have the time off.
Yeah.
But I've been talking to people and I don't think it's not a really rare thing for people to take like a year off to kind of get things set up before they start again to go to graduate school or master's or whatever level of program education they do.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not it's normal. It's very normal.
so especially I think it's a good thing because you're going to spend about 10 years or maybe I don't, if you're doing a PhD, you're going to spend about 10 years doing that program. And you're not going to have a lot of time
Hmm.
for that. You're not going to have a lot of time to kind of have that quiet time because you're always going to be working, always going to be doing research and things of the nature. And if you're teaching for classes or even teaching class yourself, if you have the opportunity, like you're not going to have a lot of time for that free time or like go to
Hmm.
Europe or like fun or whatever. And so for me, that was like, I was like, it kind of like a win-win. Plus, I want to build a channel anymore. Like, I think that will, I feel it's a good productive exercise. It's not only because the video I'm gonna research, the video that I'm gonna release, hopefully, I don't know. I've been working on it for a long time, but I'm gonna work on it a little bit after we're done here. But it'll kind of like keep me in that mindset where I'm still doing the same things. Like I'm creating something that's history focused, using the same kind of like tricks that I would use to build a research paper or anything like that. And so I feel like that after thinking through the summer and like I kind of came to that conclusion. And so that's kind of like with me. And if I was to say, would I have applied for the program like maybe if I had like gone into UC Davis thinking, okay, I'm doing research my junior year, I'm doing that program like because it's a 2 quarter program. My sister's a 3 quarter program, so I could apply to do winter winter spring, and that would have been my program. Have done my talks and everything, and my research paper. But I don't, because I needed the right person. I need to get accustomed to it. I felt like I was not at the level writing wise. I don't think. It's funny. I don't think you're ever at that writing, that the high writing level. Even my professor was saying that he's still struggling with it at times. So I think it's just like thing you constantly work on, and
Yeah.
I think that's something that's, and I think I've made the right decision. I got used to how it feels to be in that type of high level of history research and things of that nature,
Hmm.
and I met the professor that I really want to work with. Um, so I think I'm in a good place, and I think I've made all the right decisions. Of course, I like to do it, without taking a break, but I think it's gonna work out in the end. So that's kind of me with that.
Okay. Yeah, and sorry, part of what you said though made me think. Are you planning on ever studying abroad or anything? It seems like a history major would want to do
Yeah,
that.
I think I was there was an opportunity to. There was
Hmm.
a study abroad program they were doing in where was it? Austria. It was in the summer. The only problem was is that I had to do I had to do my what's it called, my summer course, because
Hmm.
that was the only time they were holding it. Um, for the entire that was included all of next year was to take it during that time. And I don't know. I think it could have been a good idea, but I didn't really need the units. But I think it would have been an awesome experience. It kind of sounds kind of what's it called, contradictory in a sense.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Right now I'm not too because I right now I'm not thinking about it too much. That I should have or should not done it because what's it called? Because I had to take the summer class and it was the only time to have it. But
Hmm.
I'm going to Europe next year,
Okay.
which is gonna be nice. I mean, you're always gonna have opportunities to go to Europe. I mean, I'm kind of that guy. And here's another thing: like you're doing a class pretty much. You're in a class, but of course you get the opportunities to go and travel to other places.
Hmm.
But for me, I just want to go there just to be there. I don't have to think about, oh, I'm here for school, I'm here for that. Like I just get to do it by myself. And but I know that if I was to do something in Europe, history, I would be doing that anyways. So I think we'd have enough time to spend in Europe. I think. But I am gonna have a chance to go to Europe next year, and hopefully,
Cool.
because there's two things with that vacation. They're doing like a plan thing where it's like if we go to England, then we go to France, we go to Spain, and we do a what's it called, a cruise like in Mediterranean, and then go to Italy or whatever. So my thing is like I rather spend time in Europe than on a boat. So
That's fair.
hopefully I can do because my godfather, he's been to Europe like dozens of times. I think he's actually going to the Czech Republic like in a month or so.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
hopefully we can meet up in Europe and we can just go wherever in Europe for like when they were on to Italy or on the cruise or whatever, and we just spend time in Europe and that'd be awesome. So I think there's gonna be a lot of
Cool.
opportunities for me to go up Europe, but I think if you don't, I think that if you're not gonna have the opportunity individually to go to Europe, I think it would be awesome for someone to take that opportunity to take a what's it called, study abroad program or anything like that. That's my thing.
Yeah, I'm actually going to study abroad, but not to Europe. So,
Where? Do you know where? Or just somewhere?
okay, I've been there, Thailand. Yes,
Wait, sorry.
Thailand.
What'd you say?
What? Oh, I said that's okay. I've been to Europe before, but
Yeah.
I just study abroad in Thailand.
Ah, okay. Do you know what type of? Is it just like just to go? Is it just like a? You're not taking a course there or whatever. It's more like you're just gonna go to that university or whatever and study there for a little bit. Is that the plan? Or
No, we're gonna do research there. No,
oh,
we're gonna work at a lab
okay.
basically, and it counts as class.
Ooh.
It's for summer.
Oh, okay. For was it?
And same thing for me. I don't actually need the unit, but I really want to do it
Yeah,
just for the experience of it.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you really want to do it, if you want to go explore, it's an awesome. You pretty much get it paid. I don't know. You pretty much get. It's not. A lot less expensive, pretty much. You know, to do it that way. But yeah, I think if you
It is a lot less expensive actually. Yeah.
yeah, but I think if you really want to do it and you want to find a cheap way to do it, an awesome way to do it. I'm not beating down on it. I'm just saying like that's just me. This is my point of view.
Oh yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah. Um, But yeah, so that's kind of with me and research, and I think it's gonna be an awesome. It's good because it's only 3 days. It's only been 3 days of school, which is interesting to start off. But it should be good. It should be good. It should be good. I feel a lot more confident now. When I first started, like I was just like, I remember the first night before I started, it was like it was hard for me to sleep. I don't know why. I can see why. It's because I've been like, this is such a big thing for me, and like I'm not sure how I was gonna go. I'm not sure if I was like even like find the right class or whatever, or like I'm afraid I'm gonna like get into a bike accident on the first day because I heard it was like pretty crazy,
Hmm.
and so like I thought I was gonna lose my way, but of course I just it was perfect. Yeah, it's funny because I was only there because a couple other kids who were there when I was staying at Davis, they
Hmm.
had been there for like a week or so. So this is new kids coming in, so they had an idea where things were or whatever. But for me, I did not do a what's it called, an orientation day, and I only spent
Hmm.
like 2 days. I spent only 2 days. It was only it was 2 nights and like one full day. So I
Hmm.
had a one of my sister's friends, cool guy. He had took me around, showed me where all the places are, and like, this is where you go to the library, this is where it is, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to
Hmm.
go. So I think if I would have not done that, I think it would have been a like pretty cool, pretty chill. But that's just me like, I don't need it. I'm just gonna go in like, I don't need this. But no, I think you're gonna have a good first day. You already know everything. You're good to go, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying for anyone listening, I think do it the way that Ben did it, because you did orientation, right? And you kind of looked around a little bit. Wait, you live close, but I mean, you did orientation, yeah. So you knew what's
Um,
going on.
yeah, no, I've a lot of preparation. I mean, I already have all my classes planned out for. I mean, I've had my classes planned out since before I got accepted. um, I was like checking if I should double major or even triple major. I checked minors. I've looked at tons of different classes and clubs and societies and all those things. And yeah, and then I went to the campus and I looked around a little bit when I was like hung out with you that one time.
hmm
And then yeah, and then I went to orientation.
So yeah, you're totally prepared. But yeah, I think to anybody who's starting their first day at college or anything like that, I say like, if you came from like a community college and maybe in a high school, I would say, because I'd say not don't really treat it like, of course, treat it like a big thing because it is important and you are spending a lot of money at that place. But I say take it like more of like an opportunity to learn some awesome things and meet awesome people, and like
Hmm.
don't think too big about it. Like
Yeah.
just put in the work, and just I think the biggest thing about going to a college or anything like that is just like the professors there are going to be like way better, way more awesome in a lot of other places or other campuses or community college or like in maybe high school sometimes, depending on who it is. But
Hmm.
just try to soak as much knowledge as you can for them, and like don't be afraid to ask questions. And if you have a question, go to their office hours. Like most of the time, they'll be awesome about helping you, and most of the time they actually want to help students. And the TAs, I haven't had any bad what's it called? Bad experiences with any TAs. They're pretty okay. Even
Hmm.
with I know at UC Davis, I had at least one with what's it called when you have like you spend time with the TA like on the side with a small group. What's it called? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like you have the main large audience class, and then they have like a separate time set for like TA with you and a TA, and it's for like 5 or 6 people to kind of talk about like what
Oh
was
yeah.
I forget what the official word's called, but even then that was cool. And even in that class, the professor's like, I know you guys can talk to your TAs and they'll be your like a main source of communication, but if you still want to talk to me about something, then you guys can definitely come by office hours. So even then they were still pretty cool. This is at Davis. I'm not sure how it works in any other place, but I think it's not. I think it's pretty close to how it works in other places. But yeah, I'd say don't be afraid to work because the teachers and your TAs will be your best friends, hopefully. And just put in the work and just have fun, enjoy
Yeah.
the educational experience. That's all I can really say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sounds good.
yeah. So that's pretty much it for me. My voice is starting to go. Ben, how about you? What's anything you got left? Ooh.
Nah.
Um.
Nah, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed our ramblings. I think it was we talked a lot. We talked on some good information, some good stuff, some and some interesting personal things. We got kind of deep. Not deep, not that deep, but it was good. So this podcast will hopefully come out on Tuesday, but since we're recording kind of close to the Tuesday date and the time it takes to upload it, it might be uploaded like on a Wednesday at the earliest, or maybe Tuesday night at the earliest. But hopefully it'll come out on a good time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
What it feel like, now I know